Gentlemen, members of council, their leadership team, and most importantly this evening, representatives of community groups and delegations that do so much to bring value to our entire community. Call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock this evening. Before we move to our agenda, I would ask that the clerk who is in attendance does a roll call, please.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Mayor Molnar.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Barris.
Present.
Councillor Esseltine.
Present.
Councillor Galvezi.
Present.
Councillor Luciani.
Present.
Councillor Parker.
Present.
And Councillor Rosehart.
Present.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll move to the adoption of the agenda this evening. Councillor Galvezi, you have that resolution, please?
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Rosehart that the agenda as prepared for the council budget meeting of January the 18th, 2021 be adopted.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Is there any discussion from members of council? All had a chance to peruse the material as circulated appropriately. And we'll call that question. All those in favor? Opposed? The resolution is carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof regarding the agenda as now approved? Seeing none, we move to item 6 on the agenda, which is finance. It is a opportunity for interested delegations to bring forward requests to a pre-approved summary of resources in the 2021 budget for the town of Tillsonburg. I'd ask at this point if the interim director of finance has any summary question or comments, excuse me.
I have nothing to add at this point, Mayor Molnar. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll move directly into our first delegation, and representing Big Brothers Big Sisters of Ingersoll, Tillsonburg and area. I believe their executive director, Kristen, excuse me, Kristen Ralph is in attendance. Yep, there you are. Welcome, Kristen.
Hi, it's nice to see you all virtually. It's an interesting world we're living in right now. So I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today about our request. I know you have the PowerPoint, but I will share the PowerPoint as well. In terms of young people mentored in Tillsonburg, last year we were able to continue to mentor 153 young people in Tillsonburg through mentoring programs. We were also able to provide holiday party supplies, turkeys and Christmas gifts to 32 different families in Tillsonburg. 2020 did see a cost increase to supporting these young people, just because we did have to translate all of our programs to virtual, as you can imagine, and increase our support of these kids. So additional check-ins to ensure that matches were safe and they were continuing to build relationships. And additional supplies to support mentors while they were supporting their mentees. This increase, or this number, was an increase of 24% from 2019, which we were very proud of, considering the situation we were in 2020. And the part that we're actually the most impressed with and the most proud of is the fact that we were able to increase the number of youth served in one-to-one relationships by 82%. So the vast majority of those 153 children served were matched one-to-one with a mentor. And it was our push this year, especially because of the pandemic, that we were trying to get more kids matched with a one-to-one mentor to offer them that support. Tillsonburg volunteer inquiries were up 15%, up 13% over 2019, and accounted for 15% of all of our inquiries. And we actually have hired a staff member who lives in Mount Elgin, who is focused on increasing our number and increasing our presence in Tillsonburg. So she started in September of 2020, And this is a big push for her to increase our numbers. So what does a request of $4,000 include? So it's less than $30 per child, which is about a 10% or a $10 increase over 2020. One-to-one and group programs and no cost to families. So one thing that we pride ourselves on are these kids are taking part in numerous programs, and none of these programs cost any money for the families. So all of the dollars that you are providing us will support directly to those families in Tillsonburg. And they're supported by a professional casework team. So it's important to note that these their caseworkers are social workers and social service workers who have the knowledge, training, and know how to support these matches and ensure they're healthy and that they're progressing to healthy young people. So continued programs regardless of restrictions in place. So knowing that your contribution to Big Brothers Big Sisters will provide programs regardless of any restrictions that are going on either through government or public health agencies. We are able to continue to provide these kids with the programs that they need, especially right now, as they're being asked to stay at home, stay away from their friends, and not go to school. And as well, supplies to support current continued engagement. So we've been able to provide various supplies by porch drop-off to these matches, including STEM supplies, match supplies. They've been part of programs where they've done Kate nights. So we offer them all of those pieces while they're connecting with their mentors. So all of that is included in supporting these kids. So how will these young people benefit in Tillsonburg? Obviously, building a developmental relationship that expresses care, challenges growth, and provides support and expands possibilities. So we make sure that they are mentally healthy, that they are interacting with not only their mentors, but they learn how to interact with other people. And they are also developing a learning or a hope to learn for knowledge. So they are excited about school. They get support for school and learning how to be employment ready. So we support our kids with factors. So most of our kids coming in our program deal with 50% or 50% of them deal with 4 or more risk factors. And these can include violence in the home. They can include drug use, incarcerated parents, and just not having the support that they need at home. So we're able to help them deal with that, not just now in a regular world, but especially due to the increasing to the pandemic. So why you should invest in Big Brothers Big Sisters, it really is an investment in the community. So that less than $30 per child will help build a stronger community. So we help youth break those cycles of poverty, break the cycle of unemployment, violence, especially right now with social isolation. They're making those connections outside of their household and feeling special, especially during a time when their parents are dealing with extra stress of potentially not having a job anymore, having to deal with working from home, having to deal with their child in school from home. We're there to support the family with that as well. And then as well with the investment, we're getting training for mentors and their families. So this training is not just for their involvement with Big Brothers Big Sisters, but we're providing this training to keep kids safe, regardless if in our program or not. Provide them with web-based and website training and safety to ensure that while they're spending more time online, they're keeping safe and staying connected in a healthy way. So that is essentially my my presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
First of all, thank you very much, Kristen, and through you to the excellent work the BBBS continues to do throughout the Ingersoll-Tillsonburg region, and particularly here in our community as well. Are there questions for Kristen from members of council, please? Councillor Esseltine?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was wondering then if I could ask Kristen, I believe that it's within the past year that Big Brothers Big Sisters has gone from Tillsonburg's perspective, from an Ingersoll and Tillsonburg an area organization to an Oxford County organization. And I'm wondering, has that impacted the work that you do in Tillsonburg?
It's actually allowed us to increase the work that we do in Tillsonburg because we have a larger team. So prior to our amalgamation, we were in Tillsonburg essentially 1 day a week, so 2.5 days a week. Right now we're in Tillsonburg. Well, right now we're working remotely, but when we're able to, we're in Tillsonburg 2 full days, and we're actually looking to increase that in 2021.
Anything further from members of council? The only thing from my perspective, because your presentation and the material that was pre-circulated, Kristen certainly does a very good job about highlighting the demands and the successes. Is there any opportunity just to very briefly talk about the capacity of your volunteer mentors and especially in this community? Is there increasing demand for that, and how can we help you get that message out?
I think in general, there's always an increasing demand for mentors. We have been successful. Even in December, we got 2 new volunteer inquiries from Tillsonburg. So we are seeing more connection to the Tillsonburg community, and that's something that we're working on. But absolutely, we are always looking for new volunteers. And we have a variety of opportunities available for volunteers, including a virtual mentoring program that is just virtual for people to get involved. A lot of people have been doing really well with a virtual mentoring, which has been great. And the fact that we're able to support them with activity ideas and supplies and continue to support both the families and the mentors through that is working out really well. But yeah, continuing to get the word out that we're always looking for volunteers. We'll take any help that we can get.
As I'm prone to do, council will be listening to a few other delegations and then have the opportunity to deliberate a little later. So thanks again, Kristen.
Thank you very much. And I hope
We
you
move
guys
to-
have a great night.
Thank you. We will move to the next delegation from the Upper Deck Youth Center, or Youth Unlimited. And it's a pleasure to welcome back in this virtual form, Rayburn Lansdowne.
Good evening, folks. Isn't this just wonderful? Better than not being able to meet at all. But I think many of us are getting tired of the virtual meetings and the screenshots and that sort of thing. And I, especially with what we've just heard from Big Brothers Big Sisters, kudos to them and all of the efforts that we are making to connect with our young people in our community and provide support and encouragement to them. I'm sure that they, more than us probably, as much as they live on their screens, are sick and tired of being on screens as well when they're having to do all their education that format, as well as their entertainment and other ways of connecting with friends and that sort of thing. So it's been a different year for all of us, and it looks like we're going to continue having to learn how to pivot and to adjust and to be flexible and all of that stuff that goes with this COVID-19 pandemic. Back last March, just as March break was starting to unfold for us, we were looking forward to taking 8 boys up to a bush camp in Huntsville for our annual winter camp. And that's when the province pretty much closed down. And so we pivoted our activity in a hurry to not being able to have in-person contact with kids to doing things as best as possible at a virtual level. But one of the advantages that we utilized with that shutdown was a complete overhaul and redecoration of our youth center from top to bottom. We spent a lot of time painting. The whole place was refreshed with paint. We had one of our workers who does a painting ministry in Cambridge, because he was not able to actually work with kids. He came and did 2 massive murals on our walls inside, which are wonderful. We stripped and re-waxed the floor and polished and cleaned from top to bottom and built a new island, a mobile island in the middle of the floor for easy accessibility for the kids to sit together, to play games, to eat and connect and that sort of thing. And so we did a lot of work from March to May, thinking that, well, hopefully we'll be able to reopen for kids. And in the summer, restrictions lightened up a little bit, and we were not having kids come into the Upper Deck Youth Center, but we started to do outdoor activities with them. Did a lot of hiking and a lot of biking. Found all kinds of stuff in Otter Creek and through the parks, and discovered different parts of our town, and had boys and girls doing some active activity. And then we started into a Friday night dropout instead of drop in. Again, at that point, we weren't having young people into the youth center, but we would do a Friday night campfire and roast some marshmallows and wieners and play some games and sit around and try and converse, sit around with 6 feet distance and sit around with masks on, which that's a challenge to do with young people, because keeping them at 6 foot distances is an interesting challenge. But thankfully in September, we were able to reopen and pretty much got going with our full programming by October. We were running a high school group on Monday night, a junior high school group on Tuesday night, a girls group on Wednesday night. Thursdays, we were doing after school boys group, and then Friday night, again, our drop in. And then after talking with the principal at Annandale School, we decided to reopen for Annandale students at lunch hour. I wasn't sure if very many students would be able to even leave the campus at lunch hour, but the principal said that they preferred that they not, but if parents gave permission that they could. And I said, well, we won't open if you don't want us to open. And she said, well, there are kids leaving the school ground, and in some ways it would be better to be at a place where we know where they've been, as opposed to just not having that awareness. And so when we did open, we opened under COVID-19 protocols and procedures with, tracing and screening and sanitizing and masking and all that sort of thing. And so we've been able to maintain a safe environment for our young people through the course of running those programs up until December. And then we've moved into another lockdown. And so we're back to doing things virtually with kids, connecting with them online. Because I'm old and because some of my co-workers are old, we actually use the old-fashioned method of phone calls. And we're right now actually spending some time doing handwritten cards so that we can send cards in the mail, because I don't think very many kids very often get something in the mail. And so along with the virtual stuff, we're doing some other ways of connecting with kids. Somehow just letting them know that there's people out there that care for them, that think about them, that are wanting to provide support and encouragement as best as we possibly can. My co-worker on Sunday afternoon hopped on his bicycle and rode around town and stopped at the ice rink and stopped at the skate park and stopped at some different spots, just anywhere where he might connect with some kids, just to say hi and again, let them know that we're out there and trying to be as available as we possibly can. So it's obviously a challenge. It's a challenge for everybody, and particularly we see mental health concern increasing in our overall society. I think particularly for the young people that we tend to connect with at our youth center, I'm especially concerned for their well-being, because unfortunately, in some cases, they're not in very healthy home environments already, and the stress and strain and the challenge of the current circumstances probably is not making that any better for them. And so we are trying to be as available as possible for our young people in our community. Another thing that I'm encouraged about with the youth center is it's increasingly becoming a hub of social services in our community. This past year has been an interesting year in terms of how the youth center has been utilized by our community outside of the work that we do with young people. Annually, we host the Children's Shop for Christmas program, and this year they did that differently, but there were still, I believe it was 153 kids that came through the youth center to pick up packages and gifts for parents and loved ones and that sort of thing. And a couple of things that happened this year that were unique, or this past year that was unique. The Multi-Service Center applied for a federal grant and for food security, and they received $30,000 in funding. that was utilized by providing transportation bus passes through TGO and for gift certificates. And Multi-Service Center contacted the Upper Deck because they weren't able to distribute all of this opportunity to the community, but recognized other agencies in the town that could be assistance to that. And so through the Upper Deck, we had $11,000 in $100 grocery gift cards that were distributed throughout the community. Now, the focus was not young people. The focus actually was seniors and adults with disabilities that were struggling with food security. And so we utilized our network with particularly the Ministerial Association in town, and through many of the churches, these $11,000 of grocery gift cards were distributed. And then from there went actually into the homes of seniors and people with disabilities that had food security issues. Most recently, we received a donation from Frudenberg NOK, one of our local companies in town, of 21,000 disposable masks. And I said, I'm not sure what I can do with 21,000 disposable masks. That's a lot of masks to use. I said, can we distribute them through town? And they said, absolutely, that's what they're for. And so we've been in contact again through the ministerial with churches in town. We've been in contact with Oxford County Community Health Center. We've been in contact with some of our doctor's offices in town, some of the other agencies in town that are utilizing disposable masks. And I've still got about 2,000 masks sitting in our building. So if you know of anybody that needs disposable masks, they come in boxes of 20 or in a big box of 600. And we'd be glad to obviously just pass those out and utilize those around the area. And speaking of Oxford County Community Health Center, they have a Wednesday on the street project, a mobile health unit. And in the summertime, they were on the street every Wednesday, just responding to health needs in the community. And I was speaking with the facilitators of that organization. They came in and told us about it at the Upper Deck. And they said, now as the weather gets cooler in the fall, we're going to be needing a place that we can meet indoors. And I said, well, listen, if you want to use the Upper Deck, you're more than welcome to. And so the Oxford County Community Care Health Center is running their Wednesday morning mobile health unit from the youth center. And again, just a few examples of how our communities, our youth center is being utilized in the community outside of the work that we do with young people. One last thing that I failed to mention back to when we did have our programs running, we were averaging 100 visits a week at the youth center through the programs we were doing. So yes, we are doing things in the community for people out other than young people, but in terms of our focus with young people, we're working with about 100 visits a week when we were open for programming. I appreciate the support of the community. I certainly appreciate the support of the town. Last year was hard for us to do our fundraising events. 3 of them had to be not totally canceled, but certainly they had to be, well, our bowl-a-thon was canceled in March. Our golf tournament was canceled, but we shifted that to a virtual golf tournament in the summertime, which was very successful, not quite as successful as a real in-person tournament. We did our golf-a-thon in the fall because we were able to do that. And then our annual banquet in October, we did a virtual Cheesecake for Kids' Sake event, which was, again, fairly successful. So we had to pivot, as they say, with even our fundraising events, but grateful that the community continues to support the work that we do at the Upper Deck. Thank you so much for your time and your consideration of our request. This year's request, again, is the ongoing cost of 1 month of running the facility with heat and hydro and taxes and insurance and that sort of thing at about $2,000. And then an additional $3,000 request is we would really like to renovate our bathrooms. I've been really wanting to do that for 2 or 3 years now and continue to put it on hold. Our bathrooms are totally functional and clean and that sort of thing. They're just old and tired. And so that additional support we would ask to be able to be used to actually renovate the bathrooms. Again, thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you very much. Rayburn, are there questions from members of council for Mr. Lansdowne? Seeing none, Rayburn, that's what happens when you make a quality presentation. So thank you very much and continued best efforts with your team there at the Youth for Christ.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your time this evening. Have a good night.
We'll progress through the agenda, and it's a pleasure to welcome back to the council, maybe not the chamber, but Catherine Leatherland from the Tillsonburg and District Multi-Service Center. So welcome, Catherine. There you are.
Oh, thank you very much, Mayor Molnar. It's a pleasure to be here. Good evening, everybody. I'm so pleased that to be invited to speak with you tonight. I'd like to start by thanking Council for your generosity last year in supporting our grant proposal. That funds that you sent us really made a real difference to our clients. And you might ask, in what way? I know that everyone is likely familiar with the Multi-Service Center, so I won't go into a lengthy presentation about everything that we do, but just to highlight our main programs here. Each year, the Tillsonburg Multi-Service Center must fundraise in order to fully provide the programs that meet all the needs of our clients. Our core services are that we do help people find jobs and help them keep jobs. We also help connect them to training so that they can gain skills that will be in demand here by our local employers who are very much looking for skilled workers. We also have an adult literacy program where we teach adults to read and write. We also teach basic computer skills. And as we know, that's very much an in-demand skill from our employers locally. We do also assist the employers directly. We help them hire the workforce that they need so that they can be successful in their business and grow their businesses here. And we have a seniors program as well, where we support seniors in our community with their personal care, with hot meals, with good nutrition, and with drives to medical appointments so that they can stay at home here in our community. I know you have our information in your package, but just to highlight a couple of points from it. In the 2019-2020 fiscal year, the Tillsonburg Multi-Service Center assisted 2,366 people living in Tillsonburg through our programs. That was 70% of our total clients for the year. This year, our fundraising goal is $32,053 in order to fully meet the needs of all our programming. If I were to look at what 70% of that fundraising goal is, it is over $22,000. What we're fundraising for now is there are items that we're seeing a continued and a rising demand for funds for. As our programs grow and expand, we are requiring more volunteers for our seniors program, our meal program, and our transportation to medical appointment programs are very much in demand and growing. We're exceeding our targets for those. And the only way we can do that is to recruit more volunteers. We need the funds in order to be able to recruit those volunteers, but also to be able to train them. They have to have a high degree of skill in infection prevention and control right now in order to keep themselves safe and to keep our clients safe as well. And with our adult literacy program, we're now having to provide the skills and the actual resources so that our volunteer tutors who work with our adults one-to-one, so that they are able to successfully and confidently still work with those students, even over platforms such as what we're on right now. And as we know, there have been many times, and we're in one right now, where we were not allowed to meet in person with those clients. And so it's been a tremendous effort to mobilize that group. We do have 155 volunteers that in this last fiscal that I spoke of did provide over 4,500 hours of volunteer service to this community. In addition to that, we're seeing the demand for online learning has never been higher. We're finding that our most in need clients may not have a device that they can use to participate in that learning with us or in that training that we're connecting them with. We've done a pilot project where we've done some loaning of technology, and it's been hugely successful. And I'm being contacted about it frequently by staff, and how can we do more of that? So we do want to have a technology lending library for these clients. We do see that online learning platform being a continued need throughout 2021 with the pandemic, but also a real shift actually in how learning is delivered in Ontario generally. We've also established a very popular program here, a new program for us in the pandemic. It's called Grocery Buddies for our seniors. And this is where we're utilizing our staff and our volunteers, putting everyone together to help seniors and persons with disabilities who aren't able to get their own groceries because of the pandemic restrictions, where it's not safe for them to do it because of their health. Or they're not able to use the online grocery ordering services that some of us would use. They're not able to understand and operate that technology. Or we even have some who just don't have a credit card, so they can't pay online. And so we're putting all those needs together in order to be able to get groceries to these people. This is a new program that's not funded. And yet it's been so successful, and the need is here and growing, that we want to make sure we have the funds to keep offering that program. We're gonna make sure that happens. So for these reasons, the Tillsonburg Multi-Service Center is asking council to please continue to support the work that we do here in our community. So thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Once again, thanks very much, Catherine. Are there questions for Catherine regarding the multi-service center here in the town of Tillsonburg? I think one of the things that's most pronounced, Catherine, is not just to your board and to the team members of the MSC, but the overall valuable contributions from your volunteer base, which is indicative of this community as a whole, but certainly multi-service center. The annual report that's enclosed with the agenda this evening's a real story about the contributions of your organization. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
And seeing nothing further from members of council, we'll move on to the fourth item. We'll welcome, there's Joan, and we'll get Frank out of his comfy chair. I mean, it's a pleasure to welcome Joan Weston and Frank Kemp to speak on behalf of the Lake Lizard Revitalization Committee. So welcome to you both.
Thank you. Is Joan with us?
Yes, she's on mute though.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Here she is.
Sorry. So I was just, thank you, Mayor Molnar and members of council for your support last year. And we are also asking for support again this year. This will be the 10th year that the Lake Lisgar Revitalization Project Committee has been in existence. Once again, we stocked the lake this spring with fish from our own funds. Frank had to repair one of the aeration units at the north end. It wasn't working, and he managed to get it going, but there is a problem. As the north end is getting shallower and shallower, we're going to need extra aeration units up there. We were able to dredge the big silt pond on George Ambrose's property, but unfortunately the contractor was unable to return to dredge the first silt pond because he considers the job so small, I presume. So we really hope that next spring that we get that one done, because we also now, of course, need to dredge the third silt pond, which is on town property. And if you have any questions about that, Frank would be able to answer that, I'm sure. I sent in a PowerPoint with pictures of the dead trees that are around the lake. I hope you got a hold of that and you were able to see. I'm not there to actually point them out to you, but hopefully from the pictures you could, particularly the first picture, that dead tree by the bridge is going to go in any second, and it could go quite far across the lake, which would impede boaters for sure on the lake. And on the other side, there are some pretty massive dead trees. Some have blown onto the path already, But if they went the other way into the lake, it really would be detrimental to boaters. And the shoreline itself is now a real display of dead trees in that between the bridge and the sort of unofficial area where people go down to fish and such. Again, every day I see people more than ever this past couple of days walking around the lake. People were boating like crazy this summer on the lake. They were fishing as long as they could. It's been a huge hub of activity once again this year. So I'll let Frank talk about the aeration units that we're asking for at the north end.
Thank you, Joan. Well done. As everybody knows, we're looking to keep improving the lake. Our next phase, I guess, that we have is concentrating on the north end again. That's where most of the issues with the lake are. And we weren't able to do that yet, but at the north end, I'm running one aeration unit off the bridge that travels south and another one that travels north from the bridge, covering both areas. What I'd like to do is have the 2 units at the bridge running south and another one run strictly just for the north end, because that's where all the debris comes in from the river, and that turns into a mud. And basically what the aerators do is they help that vegetation deteriorate. And so that if they're not there, it turns into mud, and eventually the lake just gets shallower and shallower on top of what all the silt comes in. So that's an issue. And our aerators have been in there for a few years now, and I'm thinking within the next year or so they're going to need some repairs or maintenance to them. So we're asking for some money on our budget for the maintenance on those. They are repairable. We bought ones that they're rebuildable, so you don't have to buy a new aerator. So we're looking at and doing that. So that's I guess most of the money that we'll be asking for, other than Joan was mentioning about the trees. There's a safety issue. Some of those trees have lived beyond their years, and if there's a bit of a windstorm and people out in the lake or they're walking, there's a chance that maybe that somebody, it could be a danger to them walking. So or also out on their boat or fishing. Okay.
Yeah, we kind of guessed, we weren't sure exactly how much it would cost to clean up the trees. So we kind of guessed at that with our estimate. Now, Sheena didn't get back to me with the breakdown of the financials, because remember, most of that money that you see in our financial line belongs to the fountain and not to us. And there was a lot of activity this year with the fountain. They had to spend quite a bit of money to fix up the fountain this year, and they put lights around the gazebo. I don't know if you've seen them. They look absolutely fabulous. So they spent money too this year, but I'm sorry, I can't tell you how much of that figure that you see actually belongs to us, because maybe Sheena can respond if she's still with us.
It certainly is a question that we'd anticipate at the end of when we get to deliberations. But if Sheena or Director Baird have a comment to that would be benefit to the delegation, perhaps it would be appropriate.
Thank you, Mayor Molnar. So through you to council, on page 74 of your agenda, there is a financial breakdown pertaining to the Lake Liskar Revitalization Trust Fund. At the bottom of this unaudited financial statement, it does break down the differences of the different funds in this trust. So we have the Lake Liskar Trust, and for 2019, that's showing, oh, sorry, we've got 2 documents in there. If you could refer to page 75, my apologies. This is the 2020 unaudited balances. Again, at the bottom of the document, the Lake Liskar Trust has $15,824. Again, unaudited. That's remaining in the trust at the end of 2020. And then, as Joan mentioned, the restricted fountain trust is making up $13,549, which is how the accumulated surplus in the trust is totaling up just shy of 30,000. So the Lake Lisker portion of that is $15,824.
Frank, did we ever pay for the dredging?
So, oh yes, that's been taken
How
care
do we
of.
end up
already.
with so much money?
I'm a good accountant.
I don't know. That's stuns me. I had no idea.
Yeah. So,
But
I mean,
I know-
and we ran the concert with the Kinsmen too. I don't know if they would, if that's showing in there is
Oh,
not with that.
so
The
we got,
Kinsmen concert, I don't know if that was transferred into that or not from the
oh,
Kinsmen
that
Club.
would have been 12,000.
Yes.
Okay, that was from the year before. Okay, well, that explains it because I'm shocked.
Okay. Well, it's good if you're shocked. Yep.
Yeah, in a nice way. So if there are ever any questions from anyone?
Thanks to both Frank and Joan. So we'll start with Councillor Parker, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Joan. I'm just looking for clarification. The 12,000 that you guys are requesting, that will cover the repair of the aerators and the dredging of the pond as well as the tree removal?
We're hoping, like I said,
Okay.
we were guessing about, we didn't have any idea really how much it would cost to cut down the trees. But
Okay.
each aerator is 1,100 plus tax. And the dredging comes in at least 7,500 a pond.
Yeah. So we'd have to have an arborist go into look at the trees and see which ones that they would need to take out and cost it that way.
Perfect, thank you.
Councillor Esseltine, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just wondering then about the trees. So there's the lake and then there's parkland around the lake. And I'm wondering if some of those trees in the parks, if our Parks Department would be able to assess them and remove some. I don't know if you've talked to Mr. Baird about that, but it might be worth consideration.
I did mention the dead trees to Mr. Baird, but we haven't had any further discussion.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Unless Chris, I can see him there if he wants to respond.
Through the mayor, I'm glad to respond. Joan, thank you for your presentation this evening. I've made some notes here about tree maintenance, and Town Council has approved a new tree program starting 2021. So we'll be able to do considerably more work to get those tidied up. So we'll go out and do some inspections when the weather's favorable, and we'll develop a plan to help you out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Further questions for the delegation? Councillor Luciani, please.
Through Mr. Mayor to either Frank or Joan. Just as the realization of your Lake Elizabeth Trust Fund, does that change the amount that you're requesting here, or is that still the same?
I would presume we wouldn't need 12,000, right, Frank?
No, I mean, the trees will, are the big question. The other ones, the dollar amount we know, but we don't, the other one, the tree, if the town can look after trees, that would be one thing that we wouldn't have to pay for, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Councillor Kovesi, please.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Frank. So how many aerators is it that you require?
2, and they're $1,100 a piece.
Plus tax.
And then you said 7,500 to dredge the pond, correct?
Yeah, at least that's so sort of how it is. Yeah. But we still have to do 2 ponds, you see, the first one and the third one. So there's 15,000 right there. And we still like to stock the lake with fish, which is our money, not from the town.
Yeah, that's at least $1,000 every springtime that we spend on the fish stocking.
Yeah, and we like to keep a little bit of money back for maintenance for the aeration units and the boat and such. You know, we don't want to have zero money. So the dredging will take the majority of that for absolutely sure.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Like just doing some quick math, the 12,000 doesn't seem out of line for what needs to be done. So,
The fact that we got money from you last year to dredge 2 ponds and only one was dredged. So at least 7,500 of that 15,000 is left over from last year. So, yeah.
First of all, further questions or comments from members of council? Then again, I'd like to thank both Joan and Frank, and not just for your presentation tonight, but most importantly for being part of that key initiative along with some of the other neighbors and concerned citizens that saw an opportunity to regenerate what has now become a real jewel of the community. So thank you and your team members again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a living thing and it needs to be taken care of. Thank you very much for listening.
Actually, so yeah, some of the best, maybe the best moment of the year was, I was putting in or taking out, I think it was taking out the fountain because it was a beautiful day. But
That doesn't happen very often.
There was every potential activity that could have been on the lake not being frozen. Please stay off the lake. You know, they were fishing, they were small boating, they were
Rowing.
in their you know, the competitive rowers. It was just, and you know, birds were chirping and fish were jumping. It was just actually a microcosm of how special that area is. So thank you for the work you do.
Thank you.
We'll move to the next delegation. This is the 5th one this evening, and representing the Tillsonburg Horticultural Society, we have Christine Nagy in attendance.
Here I am.
Here she is. How are you doing, Christine?
Here I am. I'm well, Mayor
Welcome.
Morner. How are you? Good evening, everyone.
Welcome. Yeah, just continue on with your presentation. Thank you very much for being here.
Well, thank you. I don't really have much of a presentation. I sent through the report with regard to what we're looking for this year. I have been in front of this council twice before to inform the council about what the Horticultural Society has done for the last few years. And again, we were very active last year, even though there was COVID and restrictions. As I put into the report, we spent $2,800, $3,000 on plant material, but we also contributed $14,000 plus in labor. So for the first time in the 23 plus years I've been involved in the Hort Society, we're actually coming to you hat in hand. In 2006, the council approved a one-day free rental of the Lions Auditorium for a meeting that we hosted for Southwest Ontario. But this is the first time we're coming to you with money or asking for money. Our planned budget for beautification of the various parks is $5,600. And we're asking that council approve a 50% sort of 50-50 payment of $2,800 for council. And this is particularly just for plant material, etc. That's it. That's all I'm here for. Did I come through loud and clear?
Yeah, no, it was perfect. I was going to say something about how, you know, short and to the point is actually, you should get some compensation for remuneration for that. So we'll see how council makes out. Councillor Esseltine, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would certainly support this application for funds, but I do have one question on the 2021 grant application form that was submitted to us ahead of time, and it outlines the gardens and the amount of money that's spent on plant material for each garden, and the last column, of course, is the town's contribution. And the only one I kind of question is the Broadway beautification, and that in my reasoning there is that the town supports Broadway beautification in other ways. So that amount is $750. So because we do support Broadway beautification as a council, I'm wondering if we would keep that included in the Horticultural Society. That would be my only comment. Thank you.
Further questions, comments? Was that Councillor Govesi, please, then Councillor Parker?
Excuse me, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Christine. I just wanted to say thank you to your group because the pots downtown were beautiful. I see many compliments on Facebook, especially regarding Bert Newman Park. It seems to be loved by a lot of residents in town, and I just wanted to give your group a kudos because you're doing a fantastic job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Counselor Parker, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Christine. I also wanted to thank you guys for what you've done. I just wanted some clarification just from Councillor Esseltine's question. The Broadway beautification that you guys take on, is that just the central business area, or does that expand out further on Broadway to different areas? Thank you.
The Broadway beautification essentially is for the 12 planter pots, the big 12 planter pots. So we buy the plant material for that and pay for the labor.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Further questions, comments from members of council? Seeing none, thanks again, Christine, to you and the entire organization. And I think as we head into 2021 and we're all looking for a little sunshine and color, then I would encourage certainly not just necessarily inside this discussion tonight, but the beauty and color that the Horticultural Society brings to the community as a whole. Hopefully will play a big part of kind of lifting all our spirits.
That's what we would like to do.
Into the year. So thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Good night.
We will continue on to our presentation this evening, representing Theater Tillsonburg. I have Karen Tripp and Chris Van Galk, and I believe the treasurer of Theater Tillsonburg is also prepared to address council, and that's Pat Lynn. So I'm just going to open the floor to well, there's Chris, there's Karen. And so
I was just there.
You guys take it away. Try
I'll
to
just
stay
do the-
one.
Okay, you did say take it away.
Yeah, but I also was going to remind your members to have one mic on at a time. That's all.
Okay, I'm just going to be the very beginning. So I don't think we've ever come for any money, and this is just to help us reopen because there's no money coming in. So Chris, take it away.
Chris, you're on mute.
Now I'm not on mute?
No, now you sound like Chris.
Yeah, I know. You've been wanting to put me on mute for years, Mayor. Okay, as most of you know, I'm Chris Van Galk, and I'm president of the theater group this year. And our board of directors is working diligently to try and come up with all these COVID restrictions to keep our theater safe for patrons and cast members alike. I think most of you know that we've been in Tillsonburg for 40 years and 30 of them have been out at the Otter Valley Playhouse. And we bring lots of people to town. They maybe stop for dinner or dessert or something. And we also offer a few summer jobs for the kids, for young people, for our summer camp. As before, I mean, COVID has just given us all a hard time. We have a long list of things that we must do before we can open our doors. We have already put in plexiglass over the box office so that you can come to the box office and speak with everybody, and it's safe that way. But what we need to do is more plexiglass on different places, the high areas, and we need hand sanitizer stations. We need PPE for our volunteers and our cast members and the like, and limited contact faucets. And the list goes on and on and on for what we need. But I know that we're all faced with having to have extra expenses for any kind of activity because of the COVID. And we are in a position of having to make these changes, like I said, before anybody can even come into the building. Over and above that, we have all our regular expenses, just the maintenance of the theater itself, the hydro and water and taxes, etc. But we've had to do that without the income of 6 shows that we've had to reschedule. Now, they're not canceled, rescheduled, and we have an entire cast of Mamma Mia ready to hit that stage when they can, but everything is at a standstill. So other than that, that's all I'd have to say. We're all in this COVID mess, so thank you for listening.
Is there anything further, Karen? You're on mute, Karen.
Am I?
No, you're not. You're fine now.
Sorry. The only thing I was going to add is that we have to have doors on the washrooms that the public use that can open without being touched. And that's why our request is over $7,000. So I'd like to turn this over to
Pat, are you available to speak to the balance of the material related to the business plan and the budget request?
Pat's going to do that if she's in there.
That's who I'm asking. I see Pat online.
Yeah.
Hi, Mayor Mulliner. How are you tonight?
Oh, welcome. Thank you for being here.
What I wanted to share with you basically as the financial advisor for the theater is, as has been already alluded in our conversation, during the shutdown period, we have not been able to bring in any ticket sales, no sponsorship income. We've had very limited donations come our way. We do have our monthly expenses of hydro heat that run approximately $1,000 a month. And that's not to mention maintenance costs. What we're showing, our theater runs fiscal July 1st to June 30th. And if you compare our statements between December 2020 to 2019 December, we're showing a loss variance between the 2 years of approximately $34,000. And then when we look at our summer camp, that same time period, we were not able to run a camp during 2020. We're showing about an $8,000 loss. So if you compare 2019 to 2020, second quarter, July to December, we're down about $42,000 in overall. Of the money that we have cash on hand, we have a liability sitting out there of $22,650 in deferred revenue from the ticket sales from our May 2020 scheduled show, which was postponed, which was our Mamma Mia. So we're asking for this funds tonight to help us be able to get back into opening our theater when we're allowed, because we will have these major expenses coming our way. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Pat. Were there any summary comments from either Karen or Chris before I open the floor to questions from council?
No, thank you very much, because you can see all the good you do by all the people who have asked you for things. So thank you very much.
I'll remain consistent. The town has no money. This is the citizens and the stakeholders' resources we're trying to make wise allocation of. So, questions for members of council to the team from the Theater Tillsonburg, and we'll start with Councillor Gobezi, please.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure who to pose this question to, so I'll just ask a general question through you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, I've got 2 granddaughters that have tickets to Mamma Mia, so they're still waiting in anticipation to see it. It's one of their favorite stories. My question is, have you looked into any provincial funding with regards to meeting these COVID requirements? Because there are a lot of funding programs out there by the province.
We've applied for 4 grants and didn't get any of them. So if you have any help for us about what grants we should be looking at, because we try and we've got Theatre Ontario who should be helping us, but we don't seem to, but we have applied for 4 grants.
Thank you.
Further questions from members of council? Seeing nothing further, I just wanted to pick up on that as well, because it's certainly when we get to the deliberation, understand the impact, and I've been on, I guess, a series of calls relative to those members who were anxiously looking forward to putting the singular musical production on the stage. But I'm disappointed that there were applications made and potentially not receptive. And if that might be something that I'm not putting Director Baird on the spot, but ultimately ensuring that the resources and partnerships that we have available to that, you know, proper contacts and things like that. This isn't not in support of deliberating on the request. This is, I'm just as recent as today, federal funds distributed regionally for tourism grants become available directly related to the impact of COVID-19, which this is exactly tourism, you know, at its heart. It's nice to see leadership face of the BIA here who've understood that it's not, you know, we're looking for equitable access for all our organizations to some of the programs that exist provincially and federally, and the County of Oxford, or through the Community Futures Oxford. So I don't want to skew the conversation to the deliberations later on, but this application more so than others because of the business aspect and the tourism aspect, I'm suggesting that there are identifiable resources available, and we should be working together to ensure that you are in the best, you're positioned as well as possible to get some of those. And I guess the other aspect of that was some of these here, and I'm talking about the washrooms and things that'll have a long standing. Are you confident that some of the COVID related items that you require in your request match up with the gathering and occupancy standards relative to provincial regulations? I mean, it's one thing to put up the screens and others, but theaters won't be open until such time as you may not require the screens. Is that, I'm speculative, of course, I'm just asking if that's been a consideration of your group.
Sorry, my screen's gone to. Can somebody else answer this, because my screen's gone to something weird that I'll have to get rid of.
It's fine. It's just an observation as much as anything. We'll have an opportunity to deliberate later. I just want to make sure that we're extremely focused on the unique aspect that your concerns bring to the table, because some of the earlier delegations, everyone's been hit, like everyone has been hit. And there's never been a more acute time that we should be helping out those who help out those in our community who need it most. And I think that's a large part of what council did in their overall budget deliberations to mitigate those annual pressures on our stakeholders. So anyways, I just wanted to ensure you that you'll get good deliberation when we get
Mayor
to that.
Molnar, if I could.
Yeah.
We have applied for as Karen said, 4, and I can't, that's not really my forte. Somebody else looks after that. But at 1, we were told that there was a provincial thing or a federal thing that came down, and there was a qualifying thing that said Ontario need not apply. And I mean, it's just these things, these enormous grants, which that's the story of grants. They are, you know, a lot of questions to answer and everything, but it just did seem funny that we have been refused by all 4, but
Yeah.
That's just life.
And I wasn't, yeah, I don't want to, this was meant to lift up, not to add any additional pressures.
No, thank you.
And maybe that's the general message to all the groups tonight as well, as if I know inside individual organization, there's qualified people who have their networks and fill out the forms. But a lot of times it's an endorsement letter or a resolution or something that says, you know, yeah, these people are hit hard and this is a good plan and this community supports that. So just for the future, maybe.
Well,
Okay,
if
thank you very
anybody
much.
could put us on the list, we'd appreciate that. And call us.
Well, you're on
and
this
we'll-
list tonight, so if I'd stop, yeah, we'll move along. Anything final from either the members or questions from council? Seeing
Thank
none,
you.
thank you very much. And we will move to, is Melissa Derbyshire in attendance?
Mayor Molnar, we are running about 25 minutes ahead of schedule. Melissa for Junior Achievement isn't with us quite yet, but Mark Renault representing Tillsonburg Turtle Fest is with us now, so we could.
Yeah, I'm prepared to welcome Mark, and I'm prepared to, we'll continue on with the balance of our agenda. We had a 6 o'clock start time for this agenda this evening. So welcome, Mr. Renault. Thanks very much for being here. Are you prepared to talk to the request and the realization, I think, that even June of 2021 may be bringing to us?
Yes. Can you hear me, Mr. Mayor?
I'm fine.
Well, perfect. Thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of council, senior staff, and those watching at home. As many of you know, I'm on the Turtle Fest committee, and we had a Zoom meeting last Thursday. And unfortunately, due to the conditions prevalent with the COVID-19 situation, the pandemic, the decision was made by the committee that there would be no Turtle Fest event held in 2021. There was some discussion about postponing it to the fall, but from a realistic perspective of asking many people who are sponsors to open their wallets at a very difficult time, this didn't make much practical sense. So unfortunately, there will be no Turtle Fest event during 2021. Having said that, the committee also does not request any funds from council for the 2021 fiscal year. And we will at some point come back to council probably in 2022 and this process begins again. And we have some clarity over the timeline and what may happen with the pandemic. We will certainly be coming back to council at some point. The third thing I'd like to discuss, Mr. Mayor, is the committee has a loan with the town, which we will start repaying. We will be paying the first installment on the loan by the end of Q2. We realize we want to be responsible and respectful to council for their support with Turtle Fest in the past. So you have our commitment with that. The committee has directed myself as the chair and our executive director, Savannah Todd, that we will be making various applications, for example, to the Tourism Adaptation Fund, among others, that can hold, quote unquote, hold and carry the Turtle Fest committee over to some point into 2022. We have the same challenge as Theatre Tillsonburg and other community groups do, where we don't have a lot of reserve funds and we don't have the financial capacity to continue on indefinitely, but we haven't given that direction to apply for those funds and we will be doing so. The committee will also be undertaking a press release as of tomorrow after we've made this conversation with council this evening that we will be announcing formally that the turtle will be staying in its shell until 2022 most likely. And one of the things we want to do as a subset of that is we will be doing some sort of Turtle Fest communication throughout the balance of 2021. There may be some events that Turtle Fest does that will be non-gather related, but they may be a coloring contest. There could be other things we want to do to keep the Turtle Fest brand front and center in the community. You know, a week doesn't go by where I have comment made by people that they missed Turtle Fest. So you have our commitment that we want to keep the event and the brand in the mindset of people in the community for 2022 and beyond. And Turtle Fest will come back. There will be no uncertainty about that. We're very committed to that, and we just want to express on behalf of council, to you, Mr. Mayor, and to staff, thank you for all of your support. We're very proud of the event that we run here, and we look forward to Turtle Fest in the future.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Mr. Renaud, are there questions from members of council for clarity on that? From one individual standpoint, I certainly recognize that both the difficulty of the decision as we were anticipating, these are the type of community events that they're really, you know, they're what would lift a community. But when you can't do it and you can't do it responsibly, then we move on till the time where it can be done safely. But I appreciate both the leadership and the foresight by the committee to understand that, and to ultimately understand that if the resources that they would have been allocated aren't needed there, I think that that's a pretty appropriate or bold anyways. I appreciate coming forward and saying, oh, we don't need those because there might be someone else in 2021 that does. And I think that's very appropriate as well. Anything further from members of council? Seeing none, thanks again, Mr. Renaud. And I believe in attendance now, representing the Junior Achievement of Southwestern Ontario, is Melissa Derbyshire. So welcome, Melissa.
Good evening, everyone.
You're just joining us, Melissa. What I don't know if there's any guidance that you do require. You've certainly had the opportunity to make presentations before. We're just here to listen to your requests and the opportunity potentially to ask any questions when you've concluded. So welcome.
Terrific. Thank you. I did happen to send along a PowerPoint presentation earlier this month. Are we able to share that with the group?
Yes, I can do that. Just one moment.
Terrific, thanks. So as you're pulling that up, Amelia, I'm Melissa Derbyshire. I am with Junior Achievement Southwestern Ontario. We do cover almost all of Southwestern Ontario, everywhere from Owen Sound down to Windsor, over to Tillsonburg, of course, as well. So I do want to reiterate, though, any funding that's raised in a specific community is used in that community, just to get things started. Okay, can everyone see the presentation? And can everyone hear me all right?
Yeah, you're good to go, Melissa.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So JA and Tillsonburg, next slide, if you wouldn't mind. So our mission is to prepare and inspire students to succeed in a global economy. And we do that through our 3 pillars, which are financial literacy, work readiness, and entrepreneurship. We have programs that we offer free to students in the schools. Our programs are from grades 3 through 12. And right now we're offering teacher-led and self-directed courses digitally online so that the teachers can use them if children are in class and help guide them through, or they can use them online where students can be self-directed as well. And these programs are in line with the current education curriculum, but gives them a leg up on helping teach them some financial literacy as well. And next slide. So here's a few of the programs, financial literacy programs that we offer for elementary grades. You'll see in grade 4, it's More Than Money, where they're taught about money management. Grade 7 is our Dollars with Sense program, where they're talking about making smart financial decisions and how to live debt free. And then in grade 8, we talk about using specific financial tools and even go into helping the students prepare for a budget for the first time they live on their own. And next slide. Those are just a couple of the ones that we have online. And as I mentioned, our programs for the in-school program model is teacher-led in class if the students are in class, or we have the teacher-led online model, as well as students could register themselves if they choose to do it on their own. And next slide, if you wouldn't mind. And they do that all through our online digital campus, which we developed due to the impacts of COVID. So this was just developed within the past year. It's an access portal for both teachers and students, as well as volunteers, because there is, in a select few programs, an opportunity for people to continue volunteering. Typically, over the years, we've had, last year, I think we had over 600 volunteers help us deliver our programs within our region. This year, it does look a bit different because there's only a few programs that offer the volunteer opportunities where they can come in online and share some of their unique education and experience with financial literacy. And next slide. So I wanted to give a little history of our programming in Tillsonburg. This is just the past few years. You can see a significant drop in programming over the past few years. And I'd say that this is specifically because there has not been enough funding to allow us to give programs. We know that teachers appreciate our programs in their classes. We know that we typically do have volunteer support, but we do need the funding to help us maintain that level of support to the students. We are not government or United Way funded, so we rely on support from organizations, individuals, and fundraising events to support our programs as well. And next slide. And as mentioned, even though schools are kind of facing some uncertain times, our education doesn't have to stop. So with partnerships like yours and others in the community, we can maintain the students being able to thrive through our online financial literacy programs. And with that said, I do appreciate your time today. And thank you very much for considering our application to you. Do you have any questions? Councillor Parker, I see a hand up.
Thank you very much, Melissa. Yeah, we'll start off with Councillor Parker, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Melissa. If you guys were to receive this funding, how many extra classes would you see receive your lessons?
$650 helps support one classroom and approximately 25 students. And that would be about a 4-hour lesson plan for them, give or take, depending on how many activities within our curriculum that we provide, the teacher opts to use.
Anything further, Councillor Parker? Councillor Resseltine, please.
Just for clarification then on Councillor Parker's question, so $650 would allow for an education program for 25 students for 4 hours?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
there's a, can I just continue?
Yes, please.
Is there a registration fee for the students?
No,
No, okay.
no. So this support allows the fee, it's fee-free, for cost-free for the students.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything further? I know it's shared, Melissa, it's in your, I see it bouncing back and forth between the screen and the meeting,
okay.
but, and you've referenced it and I believe you explained it, but I want to highlight it as well because, was the quite a remarkably depreciating number of classes and especially the number of students between 17, 18, 18 and 19. And then furthermore into 19 and 20. Which was, I guess, COVID related, but 19 wasn't COVID related. So, what other factors beyond COVID are related to those numbers then?
I know back in 2017, 18, I believe it was, we had a couple of members in the community that really rallied for funding and support to make sure the funding was in place so that every class had opportunity to JA programs that particular year. And it just seemed to fall off after that. And then, of course, last year, our numbers really dropped due to COVID. Many of our programs do run in the spring, and anything that was booked for April, May, June, or registered for April, May, June, were essentially canceled at that point. And based on the numbers that we fulfilled last year, is what we minimally hoped to achieve this year in Tillsonburg. So that's why we have 3 as projected for this year. Most certainly, if we could find the funding, I'm certain there'd be teachers that would want us in their classrooms. So
this is basically a different way of approaching the historical junior achievement approach that I may be more familiar with.
Oh, okay.
I mean, in celebrating the youth, they go off, they do their project, they come back in, they sell the stuff. We're probably thinking we're thinking of the same. We're thinking of the same people when you're talking about local leadership. Have there been any approach to the local chamber? And then I guess my other, what other communities are you approaching for grant funding, respective of their community school programs?
Thank you for those questions. So I believe you're talking about our our signature program called Company Program, where students get together in groups, they create a product or a service and then go off and sell it and do a little celebration at the end of it and dissolve their company. So that is still running. We do that online though for students, and that's specifically targeted for high school students.
Okay.
So thanks for mentioning that, because it is very different, but that is what we're very well known for, is the Company Program. These ones, financial literacy, are for younger students in elementary schools, more specifically, teaching specific about financial literacy. So budgeting, saving, investing, ensuring that they don't have debt, how to use credit, that sort of thing. So to answer the other part of your question, yes, we do look for funding in other communities, in all the other communities that we serve in Southwestern Ontario. So there's many, St. Thomas, Woodstock, Norwich. Yeah, yes. Did I answer all of that question?
I think you've done a great job. No, I appreciate that. We're going to go back to Councillor Parker for a moment here, though.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Just a follow up. You haven't seen any applications in the past couple of years from your organization. In the past, where has the funding came for your programming?
I believe most of it has come from corporations. Usually it comes from the banking sector. But there has been so I didn't answer the one part. The chamber is involved with junior achievement and they do support us, both to advocate on our behalf as well as financially support us. Also, we look at foundations in different communities and individuals if there's interest there as well. So we do have a broad range of areas that we're looking at funding for, as well as, you know, towns, councils, municipalities, that sort of thing.
Anything further? Any further questions from members of council to Melissa? Did you have any summary comments, Melissa?
I just want to say thank you very much for your time and your consideration today and your questions. And please feel free to connect with me if you have anything further that you are wondering about.
Thank you very much. And stay
Hope to
safe.
see more of you. Yes, you as well. Thank you very much.
So, members of council, we've had some very positive presentations this evening by quality members of the community, bring value to our local citizens and stakeholders in a number of capacities. Are there any general questions? I want to make sure that both Interim Director of Finance and Director of Recreation, Culture and Parks are certainly available to address any generic questions. We'll start with Councillor Parker, please. This is in advance of any resolution.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to either Sheena or Chris. Family Day typically receives has received $2,500 from us in the past. Are they planning on doing an event this year? Where they're only a month or so, just under a month away. I'm just wondering if we had heard anything from them yet.
Through the mayor, Councillor Parker, no, we haven't heard anything. Of course, the community center is the hub of that event. And with the current lockdown, it would basically be impossible at this point. Certainly the ice rink is up and operational, is being well used, but we haven't heard anything from the groups at this point, and we are down to certainly less than a month away. I have nothing really further to add, sir.
Just building on that, because one of the first things to focus on, is there a they when it comes to Family Day organizing committee? I say that with great respect. We are aware well over a year ago, probably in advance, Director Beard, this would have been in advance of you had to do with you know, fatigue and willingness to move on. And we're very fortunate that for 2020 back in February that Mr. Shepherd and Mr. Cox maintained the mantle or responsibility of that along with their, you know, team of volunteers. But it was anticipated most likely that heading into 2021, there was, I think, an indication that there was going to be an approach for new leadership anyways. So just any general knowledge on that?
Mr. Mayor, no, I have nothing really further to update at this point.
Any further questions of a general nature before we introduce the opportunity for a resolution? Yeah, Councillor Parker, and then I had a question as well.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, to she. I just wanted to follow up on the Santa Claus Parade. I know last year we did 2,500. I'm assuming that they didn't need that cost with the lack of the parade. We had the walkthrough parade. I'm assuming their costs probably weren't 2,500 on that. I'm just wondering if they have communicated if those funds were used or still available for this year as well.
Through you, Mayor Molnar, to Councillor Parker, I've had no communication with the Santa Claus Parade Committee. I've received no feedback as to whether or not they have a residual surplus from the funds that were transferred to them earlier in last year.
So just jumping on Councillor Parker's question, Director Polowick, is that we can confirm, or can you confirm that they did receive a physical payment as per the budgeting process from 2020?
I am just double checking that at this moment. If you could give me 30.
Oh, sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay.
I think it brings relevance to Councillor Parker's question, because a lot of times that's spent on bands and various other expenses of more acute nature. So I'm not speaking on their behalf, but
funds were transacted to them last January.
anything further, just for confirmation? Again, interim director, that in the now approved 2021 business plan and budget, there is $51,500 available for community grants. Is that correct?
That is correct. I do have a tracking sheet that I will be sharing with council, and I can do so now if you're ready.
Okay. And just to confirm that, and I'm not putting words in council's mouth. Well, I can take 10,000 of it off because we had confirmation from the representative of Turtle Fest. So there's there's a $10,000 that would have probably been part of that 51.5. There's another 2,500 from Councillor Parker. You indicated the Family Day, and then we have whatever decisions potentially made regarding carry forward funding for Santa Claus Parade. And I guess what I'm looking for is just a confirmation that the total requests tonight, geez, there's that number again. What did Junior Achievement ask for?
Mr. Mayor, I have 5,500 as well.
5,500.
Yeah.
I'm talking pennies here, but I'm looking for what I count as the request as 46,434. Or 56,434 with, if the Turtle Fest was in there, not 584, but that's pennies, I guess. Okay. Councillor Luciani, did you have, I have a draft resolution with no numbers in it. We can put a resolution on the floor if there's a mover and seconder, or you can have some level of deliberation and play with the blue column. Is that what you're recommending, Ms. Polovic?
That's correct. So historically, we usually start with the historically committed section and then work our way down. But council's certainly welcome to deliberate any which way you see fit.
Did you have a recommendation, Councillor? There's a resolution template that was drawn up. If not, I would consider with council's concurrence that if we could do this in some kind of both respectful and timely fashion, we could go down the list. Councillor Luciani?
I could certainly put a resolution on the floor incorporating the existing amounts, the historical amounts, and then we can debate on it later. I've got it added up to $51,434 is what I've got, allowing some monies to everybody, which I realize will be looked
You know,
at.
Councillor, why don't you, as a mover, walk us through what you have for the blue columns?
Sure. I have got right now 4,000 for Big Brothers, 4,000 for Youth Unlimited Upper Deck.
Just patience so that counselor, so that the director can keep up. And okay, good. Thank you.
10,000 for Tillsonburg and District Multi-Service Center, 11,000 for Lake Lisgar Revitalization Committee, $2,800 for Tillsonburg Horticultural Society, $7,134 for Theatre Tillsonburg, $1,300 for Junior Achievement, $6,000 for Tillsonburg Culture Advisory Committee, and then $2,500 for the Santa Claus Parade and the Family Day Committee.
Well, there's two ways. We can either just have open discussion, or you can make a motion and others can put an amended resolution on the floor. But are there just any general questions or comments regarding that from members of council? Are you in advance of asking for a resolution? Councillor Esseltine, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just noticed that Youth Unlimited, the Upper Deck Youth Center, I think they had asked for 2,000 plus 3,000, 2,000 for operations and 3,000 for bathrooms. And I noticed Councillor Luciani has put it in as 4,000. I'm fine with that. It's just not exactly what they asked for, but it doesn't need to be exactly what they asked for. I think that's generous.
Councillor Luciani, please.
Just speaking to that, Councillor Esseltine, I mean, it certainly could be made into 5,000 if we weren't funding Santa Claus Parade or the Family Day Committee.
Why don't we move to Family Day? Listen, I'm not trying to, I'm trying to, make this as inclusive as possible. Is there someone who suggests that there'll be a requirement to fund a Family Day in 4 weeks in the province of Ontario? In some level of, that it's been done in the past? So Councillor Esseltine, Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do remember, though, I don't believe that it will happen this year, but I do remember, though, in past years, they would come to council in December, I believe, asking for the money because they would need the money for the February Family Day in advance of when the budget was approved. So I think we often did pre-approval, if I'm remembering correctly. So if we thought that if we wanted to look that far ahead, we could leave that in there. I doubt it will happen this year, as you say.
Councillor Parker, please.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to suggest that we remove the $2,500 for this year. We don't know if there's going to be a Family Day committee even going forward. I think that we should let new family day committee formed. I think we should let them come to us and let us know what their needs are. It's not going to happen in a month, even virtually. I don't think that there's anything that's planned. So I think we need to remove the $2,500 for family day.
Any objections? Okay, this is just a draft to get us to the point where we can get something on the floor. So thank you, Madam Finance. Any other suggestions or recommendations, Deputy Mayor, please? Then I've got Councillor Gobezy.
Thank you, and I'm not opposed to anything happening here, but just common sense. My question is line number 7 with the Junior Achievement of Southwestern Ontario. I wonder what sort of, because this hasn't been the best of years for anybody, and as the mayor said earlier this evening, the town doesn't have any money. It's taxpayers' money that we're putting out here. The Junior Achievement, I wonder what sort of direct effect it has on Tillsonburg residents for the Tillsonburg taxpayer to pay this. From what I'm seeing in the presentation, this is more of a district thing, albeit it's not a considerable amount of money. It is $1,300, but to me, that's a lot of money. And it's new. It's not as if we've been continuing on with this for years. And my opinion, if I had something to do with this and we're looking for consensus here, I would remove that $1,300 this year and maybe take that into consideration another year, depending on maybe a stronger case of what it would do directly for the people of Tillsonburg. And maybe it would be a little bit better year for the economy and the people who are paying taxes here in town. So that's my suggestion, is to remove that for another year and maybe consider it another time. This is a first time request from that group, and it's not a time to be taking on new people for grants. Those are my comments.
Okay, just in advance of, I think it was Councillor Gobezy, then Councillor Parker. It is, according to their presentation, 100% for local students, though, even though it's a regional Southwestern Ontario program. That I think if there was 1,300, that's $650 a class. I think the indication is that there'd be 2 classes of 25 students that would get the benefit of the program as presented. Tillsonburg students. Councillor Gobezy, then Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I actually concur with the deputy mayor. They haven't come before, and I don't think we should be entertaining new additions. And the other thing is, when I just wanted to point out, when I was going through the financials, a lot of organizations actually banked money last year. And because their expenses were decreased, but yet are coming for more money. So I do have to say, I have to question that, because they seem to have much more money in their bank account than they did last year, because they haven't been offering a full slate of services, yet are coming for more money this year.
Councillor Parker, please.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would actually support Deputy Mayor Barres' comments on that as well. After reviewing the financials, there's a substantial amount of money in their financials that goes towards salaries, over $413,000. I'm sure that there is a financial side where they can find savings to get those out to more students.
Okay, why don't we stick on that one just for a second then? Well, it's going to take all night again. Like, I'm supportive of council's direction either way. I'm sure we should at least be understanding that it's a school program. It's subsidizing the program and the technology, et cetera, that's going in for teachers to volunteer their time into the program. Which that's where I have some hesitation, is that once again, third parties are subsidizing the school system to enhance, music programs and after school programs. In this case, it's teaching people that, the program, if the criteria in the schools were delivering, then a third party wouldn't be introducing a program. But I'll just, I'm supportive. Oh, obviously, Madam Finance Director's pretty quick. She's pretty very good. I should follow the directors unless they hear Councillor Luciani. Anything further on? Okay, let's start with Councillor Parker and go to Councillor Govesi this time.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I actually had questions about the Theater Tillsonburg amount that's put in here and stuff that was verbalized during their presentation. I don't think that the reopening is going to happen under COVID times. So I have to question the 7134. I have no problem supporting to, I would say, $5,000, but I don't think that all of the upgrades that are needed here are going to even be needed when they're able to open up and have people in watching shows. Thank you.
I got you, Councillor Govesi, but can we just see if there's any concurrence on that as an amendment to the 7134? Well, then I'll give the floor to Councillor Govesi.
My sentiments exactly. They may not need to make all these changes to reopen because they won't be reopening until the end of the pandemic. The cinemas and theaters, they've been the hardest hit and have been closed this whole time. So I would concur with what Councillor Parker said.
Councillor Esseltine?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would support that expenditure because in the event that they do, like their facility.
Which expenditure? Can you be clear though, please, Councillor Esseltine?
I would support the $77,134 for Theatre Tillsonburg. Their facilities are by no means luxurious, and those things would all be a benefit to the Otter Valley Playhouse. They would have trouble moving forward. Nobody's going to say they don't need those things until after the COVID is over, and we don't know if that's this year or next year. Some theaters are opening at less than full capacity. I know Niagara-on-the-Lake is selling tickets for their season this year. I would like to think we don't support Theatre Tillsonburg very often, or have we ever, I guess not in my term as a councillor. And given their budget or their financial statements that they told us about, I would support that. I think they're a good thing in the community. I think it would be very discouraging for them if we can't come forward and help them get in a position where they can open when it's possible. That's my thoughts.
Anything further? Deputy Mayor, just quick comments.
My comments tend to agree with Councillors Parker and Councillor Govesi. I do not believe we should be funding Theatre Tillsonburg. Again, what we're looking for here is the continuance of Theatre Tillsonburg to thrive and survive. And I believe a $5,000 donation is probably appropriate to do that rather than to offer the full amount that they were asking for. Again, we're representing the people of Tillsonburg here, and I think Tillsonburg wants a theater to continue, albeit it won't be running this season. Highly unlikely it'll be running this season. And if they run into a shortfall, they could probably go to some of their members for fundraising opportunities, or some of the clients that come out and plead their case to maybe get someone to challenge for some PPE or some sneeze guards or whatever it is that they're looking for. So I tend to support the $5,000 number that Councillor Parker has presented.
Can I make a comment, Mr. Mayor, Chris Rosehart, Councillor Rosehart?
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you. I think we all have to take into consideration that yes, these programs are nice to have, and yes, they're good to have. But in the meantime, I think we really need to take into consideration the businesses in our downtown core, that we are giving their money to these organizations. And these people have no money because they are also closed. I'm not against giving some of this money, but I think Upper Deck, the $2,000 for the month, I think I would agree to that, but not the extra. Giving taxpayers money to organizations that they might not even want to support. They might want to support another one more money. I think they need to go out and earn that money themselves. And I truly believe that if they want to, they can go out and do other things as well and raise the money. That's my comment, Mr. Mayor, and I agree with Councillor Gilvesi, Chris Parker, and Mr. Barros that, yeah, I agree with giving the 5 to the theater. Well, I don't really agree with that because they really aren't in Tillsonburg, but we need to give them something maybe. Thank you.
Sticking on the theater, or we'll be here like we are for a year. I tend to concur. I mean, they made a very good presentation. They have things they do need to get done. I think they could also use a little help with organizing some of their applications. They are geographically located in Norwich Township, and I would encourage them to make a similar approach there where they're actually paying their assessment. But let me be very clear from my perspective of the value that Theatre Tillsonburg does bring to the downtown core and the other businesses in the town of Tillsonburg. They're an absolute main attraction for the town. And the number of times I've either been in productions or gone to a production and gone out afterwards to a number of those locations in the downtown Tillsonburg, those places have been full because of Theatre Tillsonburg. So that's a very strong message on the value they actually do bring to some of those that are also paying their assessment. Is there any plug in? We got 5 in there. I'm not making these recommendations. I'm just trying to facilitate. We could be, we got 11 columns and we got 7 people, and that's a heck of a lot of variables that we could get in here. So let's, Councillor Luciani, please.
Maybe just moving the subject a little bit, but I'm just looking at Lake Lisgar Revitalization Committee that did ask for 12. We do have the funds to supply them with the 12. Lake Lisgar is front and center and primary in this town, and whatever we can do to keep it looking good or support it, I think that's a good spot to put some of this money. Thank you.
You've got 5,000 unspent at this point. 53, it's so small, I can't see. Director Polachuk, what have you got? 62 or 52?
That's correct, Councillor, or Mayor Molnar.
Fine, that's fine, that's fine.
Yep.
And the only advice to council as well is there is no, it's been budgeted for, it's being collected. Things happen during the course of the year, and it's suggested, especially in a COVID related year. So if you want to have, $6,000 or $6,200 available for council directed benefit to organizations that come in midstream, that's not the worst thing that would happen. I'm not, say you plan on it. I'm just saying that is not the worst thing to happen. Councillor Parker, sorry about that.
For you, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment in regards to the Upper Deck Youth Center. We've historically given 2,000 or 2,500 for the last 3 years. My concern is giving $4,000 this year. If in the future years they will come back and still request $4,000 or $5,000. I'd like to keep it similar to what we've given in the past, just so that we don't set precedents going forward. Thank you.
Let's hang on that one for a minute. Councillor Gilvesi, please.
I would concur with that as well. And as I had alluded to before, that is one of the organizations that didn't spend all their money last year and were able to pretty much double their reserves, which is on their balance sheet.
Further question, Deputy Mayor, sorry, I was trying to check something and to flip
Well,
over.
I'm doing the same thing, Mayor. I just, the question here, I've heard the number of 2,000 for upper deck. I've heard the number of 2,000 plus 3,000 for capital, for bathrooms, whatever it was that they were talking about. And I think I just heard the number 2,500. So as I'm scrolling down here, what's the consensus? Is the consensus 2,500, which was probably what happened last year, or was last year 2,000? Can we just, for argument's sake, put the number of 2,500 in there and move, as Councillor Parker had directed? If I'm not opposed to that, I'm just collecting those numbers.
Further questions or comments from members of council? Councillor Luciani?
Yeah, so a resolution is moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor Barris, that council has received applications for grant funding from various community groups during the 2021 budget sessions, and that the following groups are awarded the following dollars. Town of Tillsonburg Culture Advisory Committee, $6,000. Tillsonburg Santa Claus Parade, $2,500. Big Brothers Big Sisters of Ingersoll, Tillsonburg and area, $4,000. Upper Deck Youth Center, $2,500. Tillsonburg District Multi-Service Center, $10,000. Lake Lisgar Revitalization Committee, $12,000. Tillsonburg Horticultural Society, $2,800. Theater Tillsonburg, $5,000. And Junior Achievement was awarded $0.
And Sheena, is there a sorry, Sheena, a deputy. Resolution is on the floor. The figures are there. Is there a total there? I'll see if I can expand mine. 30, no, that's not right.
The total is $44,800.
And the net to budget available is 67? Yeah, 6,700. Okay. Resolutions on the floor. Is there, does everyone, all members of council understand the resolution? Have a full and complete understanding of what the numbers are? Okay, discussion to the resolution. Councillor Esseltine, then the deputy mayor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wondered we should change Big Brothers Big Sisters of Tillsonburg, Ingersoll and Tillsonburg to Big Brothers Big Sisters of Oxford County. And that's, it was 2,500, I believe, for them last year, and we're up to 4,000. They say that they're doing more in Tillsonburg with the move to being Big Brothers Big Sisters of Oxford County. So I'm good with the 4,000, but I just thought I would note that we were upping that by a fair bit. And I also did make the note about the Tillsonburg Horticultural Society and whether or not we wanted to fund BIA horticulture through them when we do it ourselves. And I'm fine with that, but I don't know. I just thought it was important to note that.
Very good. Deputy Mayor, please.
My question is to you, Mayor. Are we voting now with this resolution simply on the 44,800 and not on the difference between what was budgeted for and the 44,800?
No, you're voting. Yeah, you're voting on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I believe there's 8 numbers and at a total of 44,800. That's the.
I just didn't want something added on. We're going to do something with the balance of the leftover budget. So we'll deal with another resolution, I'm sure. That's all I was asking.
Oh, that's a good point. Councillor Govesi, please.
Thank you. I'm not sure if anyone can answer this, but monies that are transferred for the Santa Claus Parade, are those restricted? Like when they're transferred, they're only to be used for the Santa Claus Parade?
Oh, that's a good point. . Does the interim director of finance or someone else on the finance side of the corporation have an opportunity to answer that? I guess what I was potentially suggesting is that we can dedicate the money, but they don't maybe get the transfer until requested. And, Sheena, please.
We can certainly do that. Historically, when council approves the grant amounts, we proceed with the transfers immediately, but in light of the pandemic, we can certainly hold off on the Santa Claus parade until it's determined if the funds are actually needed.
Okay. I appreciate that. Is there anything further on Santa Claus, Councillor Govesi?
No, there isn't, but I think that would be a good course of action.
Okay. Anything further from you regarding the resolution that's on the floor? Any other questions from members of council? Councillor Esseltine, please.
One thing that's missing here that I think probably would have been included other years is the Canada Day fireworks. I think it was often in this, along with the Santa Claus parade and the Family Day sort of thing. It's not here at all this year. We did not have it last year. Is that something we should budget for in 2021?
Mr. Baird, do you have comment on that? I believe it came up during the budget deliberations, but perhaps you can refresh us.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. The money is in the approved base budget. It's just in a different line. So we are good if the event can proceed this year. Thank you.
Anything further? Thank you, Mr. Baird. Further questions from members of council regarding the resolution that's on the floor? Thank you for that question, Councillor Esseltine, actually, and Councillor Govesi, both on the Santa Claus parade and on the aspect of the fireworks, because those are a couple of things just from an operational standpoint that I would have wanted to ensure as well. It's amazing you can do an entire multi-million-dollar budget and make cuts and listen to the public, and then the people who are at the root of contributing value to the community come in for some modicum of assistance to do the great jobs that they're doing. And it's a difficult exercise to allocate the funds efficiently. So I'll support the resolution. I'm not going to, I believe there's some that should be endorsed greater because of the values that I think they bring to the community. But this is a well thought out interpretation of the consensus of council, and outside of any further questions or deliberations, and seeing none, does everyone again understand the resolution on the floor? And just confirming that the clerk, you have an accurate copy of the figures as that have been introduced by the mover and seconder and is captured by the Director of Finance?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Well, with that said, we'd put the question to the floor. All those in favor?
Yes.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none opposed, the resolution is carried. We move to the confirmation bylaw. Just relative to Deputy Mayor raised the question. I think I had deduced it as well. We have a net variance from the allocated budget funds of 51.5 to the funds tonight. What did I say? There's 6,700. I just recognize that those are, I don't think we need a resolution at this point to go to any reserves. I think there's an understanding that there will be a time, potentially sometime during 2021, especially with COVID, whether it's an opportunity to finally celebrate, or something that some other organization might need resources so that they can be providing values. So let's just be aware of that, that remains something that's available. And I would turn to Councillor Parker. You have a resolution to confirm the proceeding bylaw for this evening.
I do. Move by myself and seconded by Councillor Esseltine that bylaw 2021-007 to confirm the proceedings of council at its regular meeting and budget meeting held on January 18th, 2021 be read for a first, second, third, and final reading, and that the mayor and the clerk be and are hereby authorized to sign the same and place the corporate seal thereunto.
Thank you, Councillor. Discussion? All those in favor? Any opposition? Hearing none, the resolution is carried. And we move to the resolution to adjourn. Councillor Esseltine, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Luciani, that the council budget meeting of January 18th, 2021 be adjourned at 8:05 p.m.
Thank you. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The resolution is carried. Council will now next sit in a full open session of council on the 25th of January at 6 o'clock. And there is a special planning session tomorrow on the 19th of January, beginning at 4:30. Thanks, everyone. Please stay home and stay safe.